On this episode of Bouts Talking Bouts, we got a big fight going at Bellator 266. It's happening on September the 18th, a light heavyweight preliminary bout when Grant Neal and Alex Polizzi test skills, and happy to have Alex on the show once again. How's your day going so far there, Alex?
Day's going great. Got a nice lift in this morning, some cardio, and finished up some lunch. Getting ready, just doing some interviews with some of the Bellator media stuff, and we'll be heading to practice later. It's a beautiful day in my book.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like you're out here living your best life there, man. But it sounds like you have another kind of similar dynamic for this card, and as far as the chosen few teammate Mark Lemminger being on the card. So is it a similar kind of dynamic in this camp, like an iron sharpens iron, like good to have the compatriots on the same card working for similar goals kind of dynamic?
Yeah, absolutely. We first got the fight, and there was a little bit of talk about actually. I think Mark was supposed to have got offered that fight with Logan Storley back in the South Dakota Bellator match. However, he wasn't able to do that, and so we were wondering whether he was going to get something. And lucky enough that Mark got in on this San Jose card, and we're pretty excited. We tend to do pretty good things when we're at the same card. I try not to be superstitious, but it's hard to argue with history, and it's just nice having him in the room, and everyone's kind of thinking about the same stuff. So yeah, it's been a blast.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear. So were there, I guess, question marks at one point about Mark Lemminger being involved in this event? Because like you were saying, it seemed like maybe some stuff fell through, possibly. So was there like that potential, like, oh, maybe we're not going to have the chosen few showing out on the card dynamic as much?
Well, it kind of depends on where Bellator has matches and stuff, but it's, at first, I was kind of secured in for a fight, and there was talk about, maybe getting Mark in on a separate one, but as the weeks went by, and as the card for 266 got settled, it seemed like there was a space for him, and eventually our manager came forward and got Mark his match with Neiman Gracie, and so yeah, it's a nice sort of thing to have, but by no means is it like, oh no, I'm not on a Mark card, I'm totally lost now, but it's just a nice little bonus to have.
You just forget like all the fundamental skills because Mark's not on the card, that kind of thing.
Just goes out the window.
But I wanted to talk about the last go around there, because I imagine there was, a level of relief just in as far as, getting back to the win column after the first defeat there, and just a pretty comprehensive performance, the first round armbar and everything like that. Is that a fair characterization of that whole dynamic, or maybe not so much, maybe a different set of feelings there?
It's nice getting back to the win column, and like I said before, I try to make sure that I'm keeping every fight at coming into it 0-0. I try not to focus too much on previous fights, wins and losses. I try to think more about what are we taking away from those fights, what are we gaining, and how are we moving forward. But yeah, most assuredly, we're happy to be back in the win column, and I think, especially with that last fight, it was a better showing of my skills than previously seen. I know that this fight, he's a great fighter and everything. But it's one of those fights that I felt like I didn't bring everything I had to it, and whether that was bad preparation on my part or just didn't quite mesh out in the fight. But with this last one with Trujillo, I was able to really get into my comfort zone and have some fun, and hopefully that was reflected in watching it. You got to see some of the skills and see some of the stuff that I pride myself in doing well.
Yeah, it seemed like a well-rounded performance from what I could tell there, man, no doubt. But it seems like kind of like derivative of the mindset in the sense of like, not as much focusing on like what your opponent brings to the table, kind of honing your own skills, not maybe being overly preoccupied with wins or losses, just the sense of like improving and taking away the different lessons. So does it come from that sort of ethos there? And is there something you credit to that kind of mentality, just being like so focused on the task at hand?
Yeah, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. I try not to focus too much on my opponents, and I think in my wrestling career there was a little bit where it was kind of that's what everybody else is doing. Everybody's watching film and seeing what the opponent's doing, and I think I realized obviously the hard way with a little bit more getting added to the L column in my wrestling career that it just didn't really work for me, and I found that again focusing on myself not only helped with a better focus in training on and what I can accomplish reasonably in terms of training and learning and developing technique, but also in a sense of just like every pro athlete has to do in combating nerves. I felt like when it was focusing on the opponent, it would come down to things like, oh no, he's going to do this blast double leg, and I got to make sure he doesn't get the blast double leg, and it's easy to become fixated on that. And then when it happens, because if you're watching an opponent, they're good at what they do, then it's like, oh no, he blast double legged me. Now I'm surely lost. Blah blah blah. Versus if I just go out there and say, hey, this is the stuff I'm good at doing. I don't care what he's going to do. Then I can continually focus on what I'm going to do well. And if it happens, I'm probably going to do it again. And, I think that's helped me leaps and bounds again in terms of technique and in just making sure that I maintain cool and collected before the fight and during the fight.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just based on what we're talking about here, I feel like I almost know the answer to this, but thought to posit it all the same, because like past times we've talked and not necessarily like big into the watching tape and stuff like that, focusing on what you're doing. But is there a certain, intriguing facet of fighting a guy who's presently ranked at number 7, just potentially earning a spot within that rankings, or another kind of outside factor that doesn't, come into the picture quite as much?
Anytime I get the chance to fight a good pro opponent and somebody who I know is going to bring some challenge to the table as a fighter, as a competitor, I'm of course excited. I don't know how Bellator would feel about me saying that I don't really pay too much attention to rankings, but from my experience, nobody's in Bellator that's bad. Everybody's good, and rankings can be just dependent on who's having a good day, who's having a good week, who had a better time in training camp. So I mean, I'm trusting that if Bellator's setting me up with somebody, that they're going to be of a high skill level, and I'm just excited to get out there and show everybody what I've been working on, and I'm just there to have fun.
Yeah, certainly something you do well. Definitely a creative, multifaceted fighter there. But I'm curious as to the, like fans not in attendance versus like fans being there kind of dynamics for you. Because I was seeing a previous interview where you were talking about how you could almost like hear your opponent's coach saying like, oh, watch out for this punch. And you're like, damn, I was actually going to throw that punch. So do you almost prefer the fans in attendance kind of dynamics? You're not hearing those kind of like weird sort of like sideline comments and things of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. If you had asked me the same question, before I had gotten to experience the no fans, I would have said like, I don't really care, and that's part of it too. I try to keep calm and collected, and I don't need to get amped, jazzed up by the crowd or whatever. But the previous interview, it is sort of weird to hear the sideline coaching happening, and it's almost like that eerie sort of quiet when there's nothing going on. So I'm definitely glad to have some of the background noise back. If nothing else, just to make sure that the coach, the opponent's coach, is a little bit more distracted and not reading my mind so hard.
Yeah, I think from that same interview, too, you were saying stuff like, I don't care to see tape on my opponent unless they're like 7 feet tall or maybe an extra set of arms. Then I might want to know.
If it's going to be something that's really going to trip me up, yeah. But I mean, However people fight, people are going to fight. But yeah, I'm just, and not that I'm against watching tape, and it works for some other people. And in fact, my teammate Mark goes through tape regularly of his opponents and watches up and says, "Oh, this is what I need to work on. This is where I need to go." But it's never really happened for me, and I'm more inclined, if I'm going to watch tape, it's going to be, previous match that I lost, previous match that I won, and say, "Oh, hey, I goofed up there. Oh, hey, we need to work on this. That doesn't look sharp." Or, "Hey, that looks great. We got to continue that." So, yeah, I've noticed that I have a maybe out of the norm relation with watching tape, but it works for me.
No, I understand that kind of mentality too, just in the sense, like I've definitely talked to fighters where it's like you don't want to become overly preoccupied with what you think the other person's going to do, because it kind of takes away from your own autonomy and ability to express yourself. So, I mean, I get what you're laying down in a sense for sure, man. But something that I was noticing that I thought was kind of fun from just, the last time we talked and the post-fight scrum was just how much the Arbys, the fact that you're such an Arbys aficionado has blown up there. Have you gotten an Arbys deal yet? Have they reached out to you, or still lacking in that regard?
Still lacking in that regard, I'm thinking that we may have to do a little social media push, but we'll keep at it, and maybe they'll notice.
So I was gonna say, I feel like that was the big headline coming out of that, like, oh, Alex Polizzi gonna celebrate with a meat mountain sandwich after his victory.
And you want to know what? It wasn't a lie. It was a fantastic sandwich, and I'd do it again.
Yeah, I think on your Facebook you said you hit up the Arbys in Beloit there towards the end of July. Was that when you sent her?
Oh, no, that's just me just generally doing weird stuff and seeing if I can get any bites, and again, I see a lot of other successful fighters media pages talking, and there's the classics, which are like them working out and inspirational quotes and doing hard training, but there's a whole other side to fighters that maybe people don't get, and that's going to Arbys, that's eating a bunch of junky food, eating a bunch of bar food, and maybe hanging out on a slack line a couple days. So I feel like that's an important facet that I'm trying to get in on and show people, and maybe people will take interest.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you definitely have a fun personality. Like, when we were doing the first interview and your Instagram bio was meandering meat sack of a man, I was like, I'm going to have fun talking to this guy, I think.
Oh, man. There's something about a good alliteration. It gets me going.
Oh, you got to pull up to the alliteration station for sure. I definitely understand that. But we've also talked about you being a proud son of Beloit. Do you think the Rock Bar and Grill is going to be popping, like a watch party for the coming fight here?
That's, we've been trying to make sure that stays a staple. I feel like it's pretty easy to access my fights. Bellator does a good job of putting the prelim cards up on YouTube, and it's free to watch and check out. But for anyone who's maybe having a little trouble on their phone, or just doesn't want to deal with the YouTube, or just wants to have that crowd experience, the Rock usually does a pretty good job of putting my fights up and serving up a beer along with maybe a burger, and you can watch me try to fight some guy in a cage.
Yeah, fun times to be had for sure. And also, I did end up checking out that band you recommended last time we talked, The Who, like a Mongolian rock band there. I was digging it.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I thought it was cool. I listened to that song Wolf Totem, and it was getting me fired up. It almost sounded like a war dirge of some sort. Like, I definitely get why you'd be training to that.
That's what it is. It's real. It's got that real, like, drums and rhythmic. It almost makes you feel like you should be, like, marching into a village to take it over or something.
Definitely some good Conqueror kind of music, perhaps a future Bellator theme rather. But just to the point of being mindful of your schedule for the rest of the day, man. I mean, I always enjoy getting to talk to you, but just in the interest of being mindful of that schedule, like I'm saying, is there anything you maybe might want to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here, man?
Just making sure again. Got some sponsors to thank. and those guys know who they are. I don't need to, but wrapping it up real quick, got to thank everyone who does tune in, whether you're YouTube, whether you're heading to the Rock, whether you're buying tickets and watching it live. It's not just a matter of W's and L's. If nobody watches me fight, I could be winning all the time, but if nobody watches me fight, they'll quit booking me. So I really appreciate it when people tune in and get to maybe enjoy some of my matches even half as much as I enjoy them. Then you're getting your money's worth, and just make sure that you keep on keeping on, because I like fighting, and I want to keep doing it for everybody who likes watching. So.
You definitely have a very exciting fight style there, man. Definitely a creative, nuanced one there. And people can take that in at Bellator 266 on September the 18th. Grant Neal and Alex Polizzi getting out there, and will be intriguing to see how the lightweight hierarchy or the light heavyweight hierarchy shifts from that point onward. And just, great to talk to you, like I was saying before, man. Just you enjoy the rest of your day, and looking forward to checking out this fight coming up here.
Will do. Talk to you later, folks.